Very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Yuki Posha. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Ban on tiles and bathware still in effect. Gazette issued by Prime Minister dismissed within 24 hours. Government rejects the UNHRC High Commissioner's report. Indian High Commissioner meets Sri Lankan Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Relations. Deputy High Commissioner meets Pillayan and Karuna Amman. Securing the East Container Terminal was a triumph, says Vimal Veeravansa and Uday Gammampila. Civil and political activists voiced their strong opposition towards the handing over of the WCT instead of the ECT.
අපි හිතුව නවත්තගෙන නැගින ජැටිය ලබා දුන්නේ නැති එක ජයග්‍රහණයක් කියලා. දැන් බලන් යනකොට බටහිර ජැටිය එහෙම් පිටින් දීලා දානවා.
දැන් අරගෙන මේකට මාරුණා. මුන්ට විකුණන්න නැතුවම බෑ. ඒකටම ඇබ්බැහි වෙලා.
Exclusively designed military uniforms for retired tri-service personnel.
Now on to your top story for tonight. Core Cabinet spokesman Minister Uday Gammampila says the government has decided to reject the report of the UN Human Rights Council on Sri Lanka. Now the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Michelle Bachelet had issued a statement on Sri Lanka's human rights situation ahead of the UN's Human Rights Council sessions due to commence on the 22nd of February.
ඇත්තම මේ වෙන විට එක්සත් ජාතීන්ගේ මානව හිමිකම් කොමසාරිස්වරයා ඉදිරිපත් කර වාර්තා
Sri Lanka has issued a written response to the report of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. The government has decided to refrain from revealing the contents of the response until Foreign Minister Dinesh Gunawardena addresses the session via video conferencing technology. We have focused on two main aspects in our response. The first is that the report of the High Commissioner has gone against the scope covered through the resolutions 30/1 and 40/1. In her report running up to 14.5 pages, only 2.5 pages fall in line with the scope of these resolutions. The other contents of the report focused on the current government have been published with malicious intent. The second matter raised in our response is that the High Commissioner has failed to cite the relevant sources concerning the allegations mentioned in the report. The government has decided to reject the report based on these grounds.
අසමත් වෙලා තියෙනවා. මෙන්න මේ කාරණා දෙකම පදනම් කරගෙන මේ වාර්තාව ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරන්න ආණ්ඩුව තීරණය කළා තියෙනවා.
Meanwhile, several constituent parties of the government, including the one led by Minister Vimal Veeravansa, have commended the president, citing that the protection of the Colombo Port's East Container Terminal is a victory of the government.
Representatives of 10 constituent parties of the government attended a media briefing today.
අවසානයේ ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ ජනාධිපති
In the end, the government, including President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, made a crucial decision to retain the East Container Terminal under the complete ownership of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority. This is a vital decision. I feel that it is not easy to make such a decision. Based on the response of India, one can understand that they are not happy to accept our decision. Regardless of such circumstances, the President made a difficult and challenging decision by taking the country, the people and the future of this nation into account. Some are of the view that the East Container Terminal must be given to India because of the geopolitical situation. We know that India, the US and China are carrying out their respective campaigns to consolidate their own power. Therefore, we must not fall trap to any of these entities while understanding their agendas.
ගොදුරක් බවට පත් නොවී සිටීමේ උනන්දුව අපිට තිබිය යුතුයි.
නැගිනේ
Why was the West Container Terminal given away to protect the East Container Terminal?
කා බේරගන්න නංගී බිලි දුන්නාද නරබිල්ල බේරගන්න කුකුල් බිල්ලක් දුන්නාද යනාදි වශයෙන් අද සමාජය තුල අලුත් කතිකාවතක්.
These are some of the concerns that are being raised within the community. To be specific, attempts are being made to raise these concerns in the country. Therefore, no one can make presumptions on the recent cabinet decision without considering the past decisions surrounding these terminals. When the United National Party government that was in power from 2001 to 2004 sought a loan from the Asian Development Bank to build a new port, one condition of the loan agreement was that the three terminals of the U-shaped port must be developed as a public-private partnership. The government chose the East Container Terminal as it is of strategic importance. But unfortunately, an agreement signed under the previous government by the then Minister Malik Samaravikrama with Indian Minister Sushma Swaraj requires several strategically important assets to be developed under a joint partnership. The name of the East Container Terminal had been mentioned in a tripartite agreement signed with Japan and India on the 28th of May 2019. Therefore, this was not a problem created by this government. We are facing the repercussions of the wrong conduct of the previous administration.
පසුගිය ආණ්ඩුව අපේ කරමිට පටවපු කරුමයක් තමයි මේ ආණ්ඩුවට මුහුණ දෙන්න සිද්ධ වුණේ.
අමතුවා දැන් පෞගේ දිනක දැන් කැබිනට් පත්‍රිකාවකුත් මේකට ආවනේ මීට ඉස්සෙල්ලා නැගිරින ගැටිය ගැන
සංකල්ප පත්‍රිකාව. ඒ කියන්නේ නැගිරින පර්යන්තයේ සංවර්ධනය කරන්න වෙනත්
The memorandum was on appointing a committee to study the possibility of incorporating external parties to develop the East Container Terminal. This week's cabinet proposal was tabled based on the decision of this committee.
අමාත්‍ය මණ්ඩල සම්මත වෙච්ච පත්‍රිකාව ගෙනාවා.
Addressing a media briefing today, Minister Vimal Weerawansa said the current government had only submitted a cabinet memorandum and not a cabinet proposal on the Colombo Port's East Container Terminal. However, in a statement issued recently, the Indian High Commission called on Sri Lanka to act in line with the trilateral memorandum of cooperation signed in 2019 and also in line with the cabinet decision made 3 months earlier. This was regarding the paper tabled to the cabinet by Minister of Ports Rohit Abegunawardena on the 22nd of October last year. The cabinet paper had highlighted the requirement for an investor to develop the East Container Terminal as it would release the Sri Lanka Ports Authority from its debt burden. It identified India's Adani Logistics Limited as a suitable investor for the project. The cabinet paper had also provided a detailed explanation on the activities carried out by the Adani Group globally. Minister Rohit Abegunawardena had sought the appointment of a committee to review the 2019 tripartite agreement and his proposal after providing a detailed explanation on the capacity of the investor.
දැන් 149ක් දෙන්න ගිහිපු
Our impression was the extreme pressure exerted by true patriots of the nation forced the government to retain the ECT when it initially attempted to hand over 49% of it. We believed it was a victory. However, in hindsight, they had only done so in order to hand over the West Container Terminal. Isn't the Western Terminal a national asset as well? As Vimal Weerawansa pointed out, won't handing over the Western Terminal bear a similar impact on the nation's security in comparison to handing over the ECT? The government managed this in a clandestine manner and fooled us into thinking the ECT would be given. However, more than 80% of the Western Terminal will be handed over to the Adani Group of companies on a silver platter with a minimum fuzz, regardless of whether it is the Western Terminal, Eastern Terminal, Hambantota Port, Kankasanture Port, or even the oil tank farm. These are all national assets. We urge everyone to oppose these moves.
ඊට එරෙහිව කටයුතු කරන්න කියලා අපි බොහොම ඕනෑකමින් ඒ හැම දෙනාගේම ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා.
Amidst all the chatter, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, after some sort of epiphany, said that he was the one who asked Rohit Abegunawardena to present the cabinet proposal. It would have happened since he is not a career politician. That struggle is over. You all saw how it ended. We struggled for it too, but the port trade unions dealt with most of it. They deserve respect. The government took a step back and decided not to hand over the ECT. However, yesterday another decision was made. That was to develop the West Terminal through a tripartite agreement between Sri Lanka, India and Japan. They have switched terminals. They cannot refrain from selling off assets because they are addicted to it. They release the ECT and are focused on the West Terminal. Let's now see how that plays out. They appointed a kank as well. The people of this country have no desire to witness even an inch of our assets being handed over to multinational companies. This is enough.
This is an even more dangerous act. Once the control of the Western Terminal is ceded, the transshipment activities of the ECT will be shifted to the Western Terminal. This is because 60% of the transshipment operations of the ECT come from India. Handing over the West Container Terminal will result in the ECT suffering losses. Then the government will claim the ECT is unprofitable and hand that over to India as well.
පෞගිය දවස්වල අංජනම් බලලත්
Vimal Veeravansa and Uday Gammampila, who had gone missing over the past few days, have reappeared. They have brought forth a new strategy, claiming this was included in the president's policy statement and that they have been given a mandate of 6.9 million people. I have never seen a bigger court jester than him after Andere. This is selective patriotism. Have they worked to please the 6.9 million? Have they provided relief to the people as mentioned in the policy statement? They act as if they have done so. No one spoke about this policy statement. It was thrown in the trash can. Why are they taking it out from the trash can once more?
කබරයෝ නිකන් අමුවෙන් කන නීච දේශපාලනයක් අපි දැකලා නැහැ.
Mahinda Rajapaksa was defiant when he said he would reacquire the Hambantota port from China. He is now attempting to approve these cabinet proposals. Regardless of what proposal is put forward in cabinet, we will struggle the same way we did with the ECT to protect the West Terminal. These resources belong to the nation. The government should propose for the North Container Terminal to be developed in the same way the South Container Terminal was developed.
They must be ashamed of themselves. They are publicly declaring that the West Container Terminal will be given away instead of the ECT. On another occasion, they might say that the southern part of the country can be given away instead of the north. Several entities in our country have slipped into the hands of foreign entities. Is this why they received a mandate?
Several incidents that have an effect on diplomatic ties between Sri Lanka and India have occurred since the government announced its decision on the East Container Terminal. The Hindu newspaper today reported that Sri Lanka is yet to convey its official decision to India. The Hindu newspaper also reported that the Indian High Commissioner had met with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and Minister of Foreign Relations Dinesh Gunawardena following the government's decision on the Colombo Port's East Container Terminal. The report added that India's stance on the matter had been conveyed during these high-level meetings. Citing diplomatic sources, the newspaper reported that Sri Lanka had neither conveyed its decision nor offered an alternative proposal to India on the East Container Terminal. While the Indian High Commissioner met with the President and the Prime Minister, the Deputy Indian High Commissioner K. Jacob met with parliamentarians Sivanesature Chandrakantan, alias Pillayan, and Vinayagamurthy Muralidharan alias Karuna Amman separately. In a tweet, it was mentioned that the 13th Amendment and fully enacting the provincial council system were discussed at the meeting. As Indian delegates carried out discussions with Sri Lanka in that manner, the Japanese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Akira Sugiyama, had met with Sri Lankan Minister of Foreign Relations, Dinesh Gunawardena. The Minister of Foreign Relations in a tweet had said that the two parties engaged in a broad discussion with regards to the relations between the two countries. Meanwhile, US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Elena B. Teplitz, met with Minister Dinesh Gunawardena as well.
Meanwhile, a protest march commenced today from Pothuil to Jaffna with the participation of representatives of political parties from the north. The main demand of the protesters was for the government to resolve grievances faced by the Tamil community of the country. While the protest began from the Pothuil town in Ampara, the police notified that the protest had not received court approval. Following this, the police and the special task force took steps to remove the banners carried by the protesters. This action led to a tense situation. However, the protesters commenced the march, ignoring the orders of the police and other defense personnel. The protesters who protested opposite the Alaya Divembu Divisional Secretariat ended the march today in the Talamkuda area in Batiklo. The government, responding to the opposition that was raised against the issue revolving around the East Container Terminal of the Colombo Port, says that the ECT will be operated by the SLPA and the WCT will be given to India. India said that this decision has not yet reached them officially. Also, we heard from other sources that estates in the country are going to be sold to the Adani group of companies as well. That topic has come to the fore now. Right now, India is exerting a lot of pressure on Sri Lanka on a political level. Several Indian fishermen died off the Sri Lankan coast recently. Politicians from main Indian parties have interpreted that as a murder. They exerted pressure on us by delaying the delivery of stocks of the vaccine. The problem here is the government who came into power promising that the Hambantota port will be taken back from the Chinese are now trying to give the West Container Terminal to India. Someone can bring forth the argument saying, if we give this to India, we can settle the regional power struggle, but this will not settle that problem. It will only intensify the problem and make the problem more internally relevant. As a detrimental repercussion of giving this to India, next we will have to give something to China and to the United States. We are merely stepping further into the snare.
මේක ප්‍රතිඵල විදිහට ඉන්දියාවට මේක දුන්නාම තව එකක් චීනෙන් ඉල්ලනවා. තව එකක් එක්සත් ජනපදයෙන් ඉල්ලනවා. ඒ නිසා අපි තව මේ උගුලට ඇතුල් වෙනවා.
ආණ්ඩුව කියපු එක දේවත්. Government is not going to do anything they promised. They only deceived the people and increased racial tensions. They said they will capture the culprits of the April 21st attacks in 2 days and the bond scam culprits in 2 weeks. Now they have made deals with them and have even wrapped up the April 21st attacks commission. When the crucial suspects were coming in to provide testimonies, they suspended the commission. Therefore, we have our suspicions regarding who is behind the April 21st attacks, because there was a group who benefited from this.
Meanwhile, Aero India 2021, a biennial air show defence exhibition organized by the Ministry of Defence of the Government of India commenced today in Bengaluru and will continue for 2 days.
We are geared to cooperating not merely for ensuring security, which I already mentioned about, but also furthering the welfare, the well-being of our citizens, the citizens of both the countries in the times of crisis, in the times of difficulties. And it's not merely the matter of duty, but the matter of values that we share. After all, Buddha's message has been of returning love with love. And that's what we look forward to. That's what we look forward to working with you for. I do hope that the next 3 days of this event will provide you and provide all of us with great opportunity to take our cherished goal of developing cooperation between India and Sri Lanka even further, to cementing it and to taking our relationship under the able guidance of our strong leaders to ever new heights.
In 2014, when at UNHRC, through a country-specific resolution, permitted the Commission General to investigate about the alleged charges of human rights violations, India stood by us and declared that it is an interference into the internal affairs of a sovereign country. So the principle of non-interference into internal affairs of a country is one of the pillars of the UN Charter. For instance, the Human Rights Commission General's recent report on Sri Lanka, her comment on how we handled COVID-19 pandemic, and her comments on the so-called future trends is an indication of the degree to which she continues to interfere. Sri Lanka has handled the COVID-19 issue the best way in South Asia. Part of the success is due to the discipline exercised by the security forces to ensure the containment of spreading of the virus. Instead of seeing this in a positive light, she sees it as a militarization of the administration.
Sri Lanka, 65,610 square kilometers. Sri Lanka's exclusive economic zone, over 512,000 square kilometers. Call it what it is.
The Sea of Sri Lanka.
Moving on to some more local news, a gazette issued by the Prime Minister in his capacity as the Finance Minister was made void less than 24 hours after it was published yesterday. Now, the gazette was made void in a list of operational guidelines sent by the Controller General of Imports and Exports to commercial banks and the Director General of the Customs Department. The import of tiles and ceramic had been banned through a gazette notification published on the 10th of July last year. Accordingly, the Prime Minister in his capacity as Finance Minister had issued a gazette yesterday lifting the ban on these products. The gazette notification declared that the ban would be lifted from today. However, the Controller General of the Imports and Exports Control Department had issued a set of operating instructions to the Customs Director General and the Chief Executive Officers of all commercial banks today.
ඊයේ ගැසට්පත්
The Prime Minister had signed the Gazette yesterday, but based on a policy decision, we decided to suspend its implementation. Accordingly, we took steps to inform the banks and the Customs Department last evening. I don't believe that this decision has affected any entity. I cannot divulge the reasons that led to this decision. We received the instruction of the Finance Ministry to suspend the implementation of the Gazette.
Market data indicates that the annual demand for tiles and ceramic is worth 25 billion rupees. Locally manufactured products cater to 51% of the demand, while the remaining products are imported to the country. Around 12 billion rupees is generated as revenue by imposing an import duty on these products. A shortage of tiles and ceramic had occurred following the decision to ban the import of these products in July last year. The cost of these products had risen due to the increasing demand in the market. Imported tiles and ceramics attracted the demand of middle-income earners as its cost was comparatively lower to the other products. Accordingly, it is the middle-income earners who have been severely affected by these decisions. The Tile and Sanitary Ware Importers Association has said that the import ban has affected the livelihoods of about 50,000 employees in the industry.
Our sales have dropped. They must allow us to import goods that can be stocked up for at least 6 months. There won't be issues if there are stocks. It is the people who are affected more than us. The cost of these products have changed as well. Products that were sold for around 15,000 to 20,000 are now being sold at around 30,000. No one asks for second-hand sanitary ware, but nowadays I am receiving such requests from customers personally. That is the situation nowadays. It seems that there is a higher demand for sanitary ware when compared to gold. Sanitary ware is unavailable even to purchase in the market. If they can allow us to import goods from China for a year or two, while increasing local production, the local manufacturers can be asked to sell their products at a reasonable price.
The Parliamentary Council approved the appointment of a 5-member Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka today. Moving on, the Colombo Stock Exchange was described as one of the fastest growing stock markets in the world over the past few weeks. Now, however, the surge in progress of the CSE has seen a sharp drop over the past few days. The National Intellectuals Council elaborated facts on this matter today.
Every nation has been detrimentally impacted by COVID-19. Investor confidence is low and all economic indicators are currently negative. Against such a backdrop, it is evident that the stock market cannot improve. When large-scale traders attempt to hike supply and demand, other investors follow suit. A mirage is created then. That is what happened over the past few weeks. We even requested the Securities and Exchange Commission to look into the matter, citing a possible manipulation. The SEC had to issue a statement thereafter, noting the activities of certain corporations were suspicious. In light of this statement, the stock market crashed in an unexpected manner yesterday. How can the world's best performing stock market turn into the worst performing market within a week? If you take the index yesterday, it had reduced by 500 units. Over the 2 days, it had dropped by 1,000 units. That is a drop of 15%. Anyone can understand there is a dilemma here. Drawing from past experiences between 2011 to 2014, we know that the country's funds, such as the EPF, ETF and Insurance Corporation, buy most of these stocks. Those are the funds of the general public. We cannot cover up our poor performances with a veil and hoodwink regulatory bodies, MPs and even the competent authorities.
44 COVID-19 related deaths were reported since the 25th of January till today. So far, 330 COVID-19 patients have died.
7 COVID-19 deaths were reported yesterday from Waligama, Colombo 15, Wattegama, Nitambua, Gelioya, Colombo 2 and Ragama. This includes an 18-month-old infant from Colombo 2 as well. The infant, who was receiving treatment at the Lade Ridgeway Hospital, had died due to COVID-19 induced pneumonia. The infant was admitted to the hospital 11 days ago. The infant was in a critical state when admitted. The child's parents were previously infected with the virus. The child was directly admitted to the intensive care unit due to the critical state of the child. However, the infant could not be saved. The main reason was the delay in admittance. We urge all parents to admit patients to the hospital as soon as possible. As of now, around 150 infants have been recorded as COVID-19 infected cases at the Lady Ridgeway Children's Hospital. In addition, around 100 parents who accompanied the infants were also recorded as patients. Professor Neelika Malavige of the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura said that the COVID-19 situation that has existed in the country since last year continues to remain the same in the country. She noted that the increase in patients being reported has led to an increase in the number of deaths. Meanwhile, the AstraZeneca Covishield vaccine was administered among 18,767 people as of yesterday. We were able to vaccinate over 100,000 individuals in Sri Lanka. This includes 25,000 army personnel. The vaccine is essential. Everyone in the world accepts that. But our conduct is important because COVID-19 sees no barriers. We held a discussion with Lalit Wiratunga last evening. He gave relevant authorities clear instructions to immediately purchase 9 million AstraZeneca vaccines. We made this decision after deciding to examine all vaccines. As of now, the vaccine is being provided in a diplomatic level. The manufacturer does not sell the vaccine to private entities yet. However, when the government interferes and buys the vaccines, we hope to provide this to the private sectors as well.
They criticized us for not inoculating the public and said we have no proper plan. Once we bring the vaccines, they say we had to beg to obtain them. If we work to protect the people, even through begging, we are not ashamed of it. Moving on, the Pathfinder Foundation has said that import and capital restrictions have affected the country's economic growth, employment and revenue at present.
Issuing a statement, the Pathfinder Foundation noted that the country's economy has been affected at a time in which bouncing back from the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic requires priority. In its statement, the foundation noted that the most imminent threat to macroeconomic stability, which can affect the whole economy, comes from the country's balance of payments. The statement added that Sri Lanka's external debt dynamics are extremely challenging over the next 6 months and that urgent action is needed to address them. It also cautioned that there is a strong possibility that the country's reserves are likely to fall to extremely dangerous levels within the next 6 months. Among its proposals, the Pathfinder Foundation called on the government to develop a long-term solution for achieving sustainable debt dynamics and involves running a primary surplus in the budget. The foundation also insisted that increasing investment, including FDI, and boosting the production of export products need to be an integral part of this process.
Meanwhile, a new set of exclusive uniforms were introduced to all retired tri-service war heroes yesterday. The ceremony was held at the Defence Forces College in Colombo under the patronage of the Defence Secretary, retired General Kamal Gunaratne. The commanders of the Tri-Forces were also present at the event, which was also graced by a number of former commanders and senior officers.
The military is not an organization in place to commit murders. The duty of the army is to ensure national security and to create an environment where the people can breathe freely. That is what we have in our hearts. So even though it has been a while since we've retired, to be able to once again wear this beret that we have worn for 30 to 40 years, I think it is because of a good deed I have committed in a previous birth.
Sri Lanka's 73rd Independence Day celebrations will take place at Independence Square in Colombo tomorrow. The final rehearsals for the event that will be held under health protocols took place today. Tomorrow's ceremony will begin at 7:30 a.m. under the patronage of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Meanwhile, the opening ceremony of a palliative care unit at the General Sir John Kothalavala Defence University was held today.
The opening ceremony of the palliative care unit was held at the auditorium of the General Sir John Kothalavala Defence University today. The palliative care units focus on caring for people with a life-limiting illness and aim to maintain quality of life.
We have a hospital, hotel. First time in the concept of in a hospital where we have established a 50-room bedded hotel. Rooms are of 3-star or even above. It's a kind of a small suite. Even you can cook your instant food inside your suite itself. In an emergency, straight away the patient can be transferred to the hospital within less than 5 minutes.
Palliative care is for people like me I'm terminally ill. Even though this is, now you all are starting the palliative care center, the 8 or 9 times I have come here, you all have understood me and you all have made me comfortable. And here they try to do a lot of curative. It's not what we need. We need palliative. What is needed is to let us go comfortably. So there has to be more awareness.
Today we have started this palliative care center for mainly patients with long-term illnesses as well as patients with cancers. When they encounter cancers, they have to undergo various kind of changes to their lifestyle, not only for the patient, for the patient's family members and the carers, and they have to be educated well about the illness. And there are a lot of other issues, pain, various psychological unhappiness, psychological disturbance, social situations, social factors are going to get affected. And during this palliative care, what we are going to address is that how to provide proper care for the patient as well as their family members.